Okay, so this is probably something that's a little bit overdue, and we've been experiencing OB in our life for quite a while, and we're just now talking about them. So I'm going to be talking about Discord bots and specifically OB, and we're going to be going into. We actually have. Oh, I'll talk about myself real quick. Yeah, I'm Max, such and such. Went a lot of places. I made OB. Cool. But yeah, so what exactly is OB? We're going to be going over that. We're going to be first looking into how to write Discord bots, like how do they work, how specifically do you interact with them, how to write a Discord bot. We're going to be doing a little demo. You get to write a command, an app command, and then on message event prompt. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about how you can contribute to OB, because OB is completely open source and anyone is able to contribute to it. We've had people in the past, or a person in the past, contribute, and their contribution still runs today. So first, we're going to be talking about Discord bots. So first thing you have to do is choose a library. There are several out there. There's literally that link will pull up a web page, and there's, I'd guess, probably about 50 different libraries that you can use. These are ranging from everything from like Rust to Python to Golang. I think there's a C one, JavaScript. JavaScript's like the actual raw one that I think Discord maintains, if I'm not wrong. There's so many, and you can literally, I think there might even be like some like Perl ones if I remember right. But yeah, anything that you want to write your Discord bot in, you can probably do it. So there's a Discord, there's a library for any language. You pretty much just choose one that you're comfortable with and you go for it. So like right here, there's even like, I think there's like 6 or 7 just in Python itself. So you get to be a little bit inventive. So let's talk about like the basics of what you need to do to enroll a Discord bot. Well, first off, what you're going to be having to use is a token. So you go to this discord.com/developers/applications. A bot is considered an application, and then from there, you can get a bot token, and then that's how you say when you're running your command, you go out to Discord and say, hey, I have this token. Therefore, any server that has this bot already enrolled in it, I have access to now. And Discord says, cool, what do you want to run? And then, Siri wants to contribute. And then next is, we're going to be talking about Discord Pi. It's a really good framework, and they have a ton of information there, and pretty much everything are commented, documented. Any question that you could have, they have answered already. And then generally, the one scary thing is that whoever controls the token does control the bot. So if you accidentally leak your token, like, I don't know, I might do in here. I'm trying not to, but I might. You can go enroll in that same bot, or enroll that token for my bot, and basically say, okay, I now have control, admin control of every single server that bot's in. So this isn't theoretically even just a single server issue. You could theoretically compromise every single server that it's in. So keep it private. I'm pretty sure that Discord even does like GitHub checking, and anytime it sees a public commit with that token in it, it will just automatically retract it. I'd still say be careful. So now we're going to be doing a generic intro to Discord Pi. It's what OB's built on. It's a very simple yet performant framework. And we're going to be like, I'll be showing it off, and it like takes literally three lines of code sometimes to write an entire command. It doesn't have a lot of the bells and whistles. Well, in the past couple months, it's gotten them. They're not as well optimized as a lot of other ones. So there's an idea of like moving away from it. So yeah, doesn't have all the bells and whistles. Easy slash commands. It's recently gotten a little bit better with that. Buttons, I don't think it has support. If anyone remembers when Discord got that like really big update where now there's like full buttons instead of having to use like emoji reacts in order to select stuff, I'm pretty sure that they don't support that yet, or at least support it in a really easy way to use. There's some other stuff. But yeah, so Before we start talking about all this specific information, I want to start talking about like what tools you need to start to understand in Python so you can make the most out of them.
Sure, I understand.
Okay, I'm gonna just take off my watch. Siri's been very vocal to me lately. So first we need to understand the tools that all this uses. So first we're gonna be talking about decorators. So decorators, you probably heard this in a lot of like programming classes, they wrap functions. Well, what does that mean? So in Python, I think also like Java, you declare it as at, and then whatever your decorator. And that decorator itself is just a function that takes a function as a parameter. Simple as that. And then when you call that at decorator, it runs decorator and then passes the function in that you're trying to call. Okay, it's just like slotting itself in right before. That kind of makes sense. So other thing you have to understand is that they're running completely before. And realistically, if you wanted to make a bad decorator, you can make one that just doesn't call your function. Like really rag on your buddies and just change their code a little bit and nothing will work. But yeah, they can also be quite complex. Like we see here, just something as simple as we make a decorator to say what function's being called, what arguments are being passed, any keywords, and the output. Even something as simple as that is quite a few lines, and this only gets more complex when you're doing something like having multiple decorators on a single function, or decorators with parameters, which you actually have to create a function that, or a function that returns a decorator, which a decorator is a function that returns a function wrapper. So that's like 3 levels of like functions you have to return. So it gets a little bit weird. But yeah. So how do we actually construct these? I'll go through this quickly, but you have a function and you declare a function inside of it. You're making sure to pass in whatever, you can really call it whatever you want, but we're just saying it's a function. And then you build your wrapper on the inside. And for us, we'll make it simple, and we're gonna say we're gonna take as many arguments and as many keyword arguments as you can pass. Okay, cool. And then for that function, we're gonna print out what the name is and what it's being called. And then we're gonna say we have these arguments and these keyword arguments. We're gonna get the output of that function. We're gonna print what that output is, and then we're actually gonna return it. So realistically, when we're running myfunc12, all we're doing is just passing that. But then we have an entire debug statement that says what's being called, what arguments were passed, any keyword arguments, and the output. So this is even a really cool way to debug that I've used before. It'd be up to you to implement it. It's simple enough. But you can realistically get kind of like a stack of every single time a function gets called, how it was called, what it outputs, and such and so forth. Next, we're going to be talking about like asynchronous workflows. So in Python, this is async IO. It's, again, an asynchronous workflow. Basically, it allows you to schedule things to be run in an asynchronous loop. So what does that mean? We take asynchronous classes. We feel like we're not getting our worth. Like, is that it? No. So if we kind of look at here on the top, of course, the little talking thing says it's on top. But say we have 2 parallel, we'll call them threads. Because realistically, what we're taught in classes, like, oh, you need to make it faster? Oh, thread it. That's easy. So you can run 2 at the same time. But we have that gray area in the middle where, okay, maybe it's sleeping. Maybe it's calling out to a server and it's just waiting until the server sends a response. Realistically, our CPU is not doing anything. Why impede in a whole thread? So what we do is we can coalesce all those areas that are pretty much just waiting and then only keep the active parts. And then we have a runner for that thread that basically says when things happen. So we can take those active parts, condense it to a single thread, and we're far more efficient. So we'll be using this a little bit more once we, again, you'll see a lot of this once we get into it, and you'll actually see asynchronous decorators, and it's gonna be this whole like cool little thing. But yeah, so in order to declare a function as asynchronous, you just put async at the front. And in order to call an asynchronous function, you await it. You await that the asynchronous function returns. Because realistically, on Python's low level, what it does, and for a lot of languages, it returns you a promise. So what does that mean? It's a promise that you're going to get something back. And if it doesn't fulfill that promise, it'll like error out. So when you're running something like this, what does a promise mean to you? You want the actual thing that gets sent back. So you're pretty much just waiting on that promise to be fulfilled. And when it does, you pass that point, and you're good. Okay, so let's look at our little code snippet. So again, I think we had a very similar thing in like one of the intro Python classes, where it's like, okay, we want to print all these things, but we're going to be sleeping in the middle. So how do we do that properly? Well, instead of sleep, we can say async IO sleep. So we know like, hey, we're not actually using the thread right now. And there's a bunch of other ways to do this. But so we're going to create two tasks of this print delay. One, it's going to be printing bruh, and it's going to do it 4 times. And the other one is going to be bingus, and it's going to print 3 times. You'll wait each of the individual tasks, and they both go forward at the same time. And we can see that they're, they're ran sequentially. They're waiting that independent time that they need. They're in the order that they should be. So a lot of the threading that are like issues with threading that we see just don't become a thing anymore. Where the main issue with threading is what happens when 2 threads try to access the same resource at the same exact time. What we're doing is condensing everything down to 1 thread, so you always know only one thing is going to be accessing another at a single time. And then likewise, it's up to whatever's running to give up its relinquish control of that thread. So you can say for a fact, hey, this is going to run until I say not to. Whereas threading, you don't have those guarantees. So that's a lot of words. That's a lot of speak. Why don't we go back to some more higher level things? So what are cogs? Again, they're just this giant abstraction that Discord.py makes for functionality within Discord or Discord bots. So it's pretty much a grouping and say, I want to do all this, but make it like a little package. Make it nice and make sure that it can just run simultaneously with other ones. It's pretty much just a way to segment functionality into logical groups. There's nothing uniquely special about what a thread is, or I mean a cog is. It's just making sure to group it. So that's like one of the things you have to get over. And the other cool thing that they can do is you can unload them and load them at runtime. So you say like, say we find out with OBII that, I don't know, the sign-in functionality is vulnerable, and we're like, oh, we can't shut it down right now. There's actually a command in OBII that only eBoard gets used, and it's called like unload cog. And then we can pass in sign-in. And right there, sign-in's completely removed. It's no longer active. It's no longer allowed to anyone to use it. And once we update it, once we set everything back up and properly, we can use it again. And we can load it back without ever turning off OBII. And then, again, cogs have their own listeners functionality which feed into the bot. You'll see a little bit how Discord Pi like handles events and why cogs are necessary. So we'll see some like a basic set. So cogs are just classes, or cogs are just classes actually made in Discord or OBII, like an abstraction, which allows you to have the logger I call it package, but it's automatically there. So if you ever need to log anything, it can automatically go to our logging channels. It's a subclass of the actual cog, so Discord ext commands.cog. And in order to make class variables, you need to run the init. I handle it unless you want to change something, so you never have to really worry about it. And then in OBII, this gives you access to like things like the logger. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, let's say you want to make your very basic own cog. So we take our commands.cog. That's what we're inheriting in our class, and that gives us all the functionality of a cog. And right now we're just saying there's nothing in it. Let's say if we want to add like some class variables to it. Well, we need to do that thing where we're calling the superclass, making sure to instantiate it, and then set whatever we want. And then likewise, we have the example where OBII just takes its own stuff and does it for us. Okay, so sorry, this is a lot of definitions. There's a lot of context that's required. It's a little bit of an uphill struggle. But so what are events now? So when do you want your code to run? This is basically back to that asynchronous workflow. Okay, I don't know how long I'm going to be waiting, but when something executes and say, hey, I need to run, I need to run. So we handle this with events. So within, Discord.py, there's a bunch of them. So like one of the most basic to understand is something like onMessage. You name your function onMessage, and you declare, and then you just say like, hey, this is an event. And it says every single time that a message is sent that OBII can read, it lets you run that function. And then it passes the message back to you. Okay, cool. That's pretty cool. And then going back, abstracting a little bit further, there's three main ways that you can do this. So we have the listeners, which we just talked about, the events, where it's like onMessage. There's ones like onReady, onReactionAdd, onReactionRemove. There's there's commands. So whenever you see like .sign_in, people like to do like mark flag, basically demarking some message as a command that's actually just a listener on the back end, but Discord.py abstracts it. And then finally, there's tasks. This is something like good food or our heartbeat, which basically says, hey, every 3 minutes or maybe every day at 1 p.m. EST, run this, and so that we can handle something. And then these are all, again, handled by decorators. So we keep seeing like these same ideas coming up and up again. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper in each of those three classes. So intro to commands. So this is the basic way of executing a command. We see like some examples, ping, kudos, even like /table flip is technically a command, or used to be. They've since made that an app command. It's a little bit different, and we'll be talking about that in the demo. But yeah, so all we have to do is name something like, hey, kudos. And when we run .kudos, it just passes it. The weird thing is that anything you pass in past .kudos, it works like a Unix shell. So when you run ls tac.la, well, tac.la is like its own parameter that gets passed in. So it's like running kudos and then whatever the context is that you get, and then the string LA. And that gets passed as a separate parameter. So we have to do a little justification for that in order to make sure that it works. Whatchamacallit. So yeah, they all use this, superclass, Discord ext commands. That's the actual decorator. That's what they use. And that just says, hey, this is a command, and you're going to want to use whatever you name it, your command, as the, command name. So yeah, you receive a context. So that's everything from like, hey, who executed it? What's the actual message say? Is there any reactions on it? Stuff like that. Next is listeners. So we're waiting for some action to happen, and when it does, it runs our code. There's a lot, like a lot. Raw reaction clear emoji, there's raw app command permissions update. This is like only a subset of them, and they get very specific. Like you can even have one that's like on invite. We have one on member join so that you get messaged by OBII. There's a lot. And they all have different parameters because I don't know if you'd imagine when you get a reaction, you probably want to have something related to reaction sent back to you. And then likewise, when you join a server, probably something related to that. So you just need to make sure, check what they're actually passing back to you. The most common that you'll see are stuff like onMessage, onJoin, onReactionAdd. And we see with like OBII, this pretty much reads every single message that comes into our server, and it checks, hey, or the characters UWU in that order in any of the content. You can try this out right now if you really want to. Some people know it exists, some people don't, and it will just send you it back. And then even us on the back end, we get a little message saying who did it. We have a question.
How do you pronounce the UWU?
Oh. Well, yeah. So it's pretty simple, and it's just it honestly comes down to almost English at a point. Like when you get a message, you can do like message on this channel, send, and then whatever you want your response to be. So the abstraction for Discord Pi is really nice and really simple to understand. And then I promise, I'm pretty sure this is one of the last slides with like in-depth content before we get to have a little bit of fun. So intro to tasks. These are the last one, and this is, hey, I want something to run on a schedule or some related interval. And so like the good examples are like our heartbeat, good food, and we basically, we use the @discord_ext task loop decorator. And then you also have to remember to start your loop, which is a little bit weird because you actually .start your function. So we see like self.heartbeat.start in our heartbeat. It's something people always forget. And then likewise, you can add whatever interval or date time that you want it to execute on. So this is where we get to have a little bit of fun. This can be a little bit interactive. And I'm actually going to switch over to the mic that like straps onto me, I guess, whatever that's called. Yeah, there's 2 mics. Can you believe it, Malik? Okay. I think it's it's picking up. It's going up and down. Cool. So all this is just demo time. I already have a little. Oh, we have the cheat sheet up. Oh no. Okay. So what does a Discord bot actually look like? Well, first off, just to get it out of the air, we're not looking at private.py. That's where the token is. I don't want you taking over my stuff. Oh, yeah, true. Boom. Okay. I think that helps everyone, hopefully. So, cool. We're importing our token. We're importing Discord. We're even importing some commands. And we use this all. Guild ID. If anyone, now I actually have to open Discord. I forgot about that. I specifically closed it so none of you guys could be jerks. So yeah, so we're in our channel, and if you ever want like IDs, you can like literally just right click on people and copy their ID. I don't know why that decided not to, but yeah, copy ID. There's role IDs, there's guild IDs, there's user IDs, there's so much, and they're just all these numbers. That number itself is what we were talking about here, that guild ID. It's the exact same. I can, if you really want me to show you, it's the exact same. Next, we have to declare our bot. So bot equals commands.bot, simple enough. And then there's 2 things that we have to pass in. The second one's technically optional, but the first one is intents. So what do you want your bot to be able to do? This is Discord's way of like permissioning. And there's like a bunch of things that you can say like, oh, I want it to know when someone sends a message, or I want it to know when someone joins. And you're able to set all these intents. I just put them to all because security. This is pretty much like your scopes of the bot. And then second, the command prefix. So when you're creating a command, what do you want it to start with? Simple enough. Okay, so that first thing. Let's do a message event. So we have events. We have @bot.event. We're declaring an asynchronous function, and we're saying it's on every single message. So I think the first thing we want to figure out is, hey, what does it actually send back when we send some kind of message? No, not the cheat. Okay, we're running it. We'll shrink it a little bit. Cool. we're running a bot, we see the bot's online. Let's say hide it. Okay, oh, cool. Look, we have all that information. We have what kind of channel it is, the ID of the channel, name of the channel, absolutely everything, who sent it. You can even see that I'm not a bot, in fact. But yeah, you have all this information. Surprisingly, it does not, it probably shows me somewhere. I'm just not seeing it. But there's this thing called .content. And if we use something as simple as send it back, and now we say hi, oh, we get a message back. We see that we sent hi. Okay. Now, I don't know. This is like as simple as you can get. You can like print out everything. But let's say we want to do some response. So await. We can get information from the message, so we can say, you can see a little bit of cheating from GitHub Copilot, but we can see exactly what we want. Well, we're going to await a function that we're taking our message, we're checking what channel is it in, and then from that channel, we're sending whatever the message is back. Okay, that's simple enough. Let's rerun, see if it works. Ooh. And we say hi, and oh, we're running into an issue. What could that ever be? Well, when a bot sends a message, that's still a message. So what if it's just responding to itself? So from here, we can say, hey, if, okay, let's say Discord Copilot takes our job. And right there, we can say, hey, our author, if it's a bot, just don't respond to it. Leave it lonely. And, oh, sorry, I'm getting used to the key mappings on my new computer. But yeah, right there, we can run it, it's fine, and it doesn't repeat itself. Step one, done. We know how to use events. Commands, these are a little bit different. So we're gonna be making a basic ping command here. So we're naming the command ping. So does anyone want to take a shot on what you have to type in to execute that command? Any takers? Cool, ping, yeah. So to execute this, and we can just show you that it will execute if we do something like ping. First off, we declared at the front of the top that we can use ping to do something. And just like that, it sees ping, it runs ping, and, or sorry, that's actually, I'll disable the first function that just repeats whatever I say. I get that probably gets confusing, but, oh, actually it's not liking that. This is why I have a cheat sheet. Boom. This is called being prepared for a demo. Few people know this. I don't know why that actually didn't do. It doesn't make, that kind of doesn't make sense. But yeah, okay, now let's run ping, see what happens. And I think I didn't enroll the command, that's the issue. Yeah, that's the one thing that I forgot to do. No. Actually, could it be an ordering thing? Maybe. Is it possible that the first thing is hitting and then it's ending the... Yeah. Let's just show you with our cheat. Boom, it's working. And ping does not like me today, apparently. Okay, I had this working before, but apparently it doesn't like me. But yeah, it will say pong. Okay. Cool. We'll get off cheat for a second. And you know what, we're just going to comment these all out so that we don't have to deal with them. Yeah, I think I just messed with something that probably shouldn't have been messed with. Okay. Last thing is app commands. So it's a whole lot more complex looking. But all this is a command, but if you saw here, when we ran like slash, we can see like stuff like here. And we can see I've already ran this, and we can see there's something called name. Well, name is equals name, that's a command we're running. We can set descriptions, what guilds we want it to be in. Guilds are just Python's way of saying servers. It's just complicated for complicated sake. And we can just call it whatever we want. And I'm also realizing that we're kind of running out on time, so I'm just gonna use the cheat sheet. And we can see, we can do something as simple as we take whatever interaction we're getting back, we're seeing what the response is, or we're getting the response and we're sending back the message pong. And this, we get a little bit fancier. Watch this fail. It's gonna fail. Okay. Yeah, so I think my issue was here, and I thought I fixed it, but I didn't. I never fully enrolled the commands. So I think bot.tree like sync or something. Yeah, I think that should work. So again, we're using another listener, and we're saying, hey, once the bot is ready, once it says I'm ready, it's going to sync the tree, which the tree is just the set of application commands. And, okay, maybe I'm just lying. I had this working before. I apparently failed it. But you guys get the idea. And I stopped sharing instead of stopping something else. Yeah, we're taking only the biggest L's today.
Do it, math.
Dude. Okay, we're gonna ignore that. Demo time's over. Boom. There's still more. We're yet to talk about actual OBI and some of its features. I promise this will be a little bit quicker. I'll go through it pretty quick. So first, what OBI? That's our Discord bot, completely open source. Anyone can make contributions. Does a ton for the server that you don't see on the back end. Like we have an absolute ton of information just from like how OBI, whatchamacallit, like he does, or OBI does our voting. OBI does, again, I think of just polling, kudos, does all our logging, stuff like that. Absolutely a ton. If you ever want to make contributions, it's a little bit long, but GitHub, ritsec.cloud, operations program, OBI, OpsBot 2. That's what OBI stands for, by the way, OpsBot 2. So first, our logging. Has its own logging stack I built myself. You have every different type of logging command, or alert type. It does auditing and responses. Yeah, and you get to use OBI's special class, self.logger, and you get to make an error or info, and then if you pass in a user, it'll put their face in a little box. So if someone's being an ass and tries to break the bot, we get a lot of messages with your face in it. Fun fact. But yeah, we also have, this isn't completely updated, but we have a list and wiki of OBI, and it includes all the cogs, how to use them, how to modify them, how, if you want to deploy it yourself, how to do that. Next, the OBI wiki. We talked about it, has pretty much everything there. I spent a lot of time on it. Be sure to go look at it if you want to learn more. Even if you're not confident enough to contribute to OBI itself, contribute to the wiki, why not? Yeah, about the same information there. And then lastly, OBI issues. My favorite thing is making issues that I never intend on like actually solving. So we have issues in the GitLab itself. These are all public. You can see all the issues people have made, I have made. They all have different levels of severity, if it's a bug, if it's whatever. And most of them include descriptions, and every so often I'll just make myself a branch, approve my own branch, and merge my own branch to main, and now we have a new OBI feature. And feel free to try to use that, and I will approve your request more than likely, as long as it works. Lastly, questions. That was a bit much. I know, that was a long presentation. I thought it would go a little bit faster. But OBI is a big part of the club at this point and does a lot of heavy lifting for your board.
So first off, really good presentation. Also, I've looked at the wiki. The docs are great, so really nice job on that. I actually want to ask something about the
Absolutely.
So I noticed if you go back to the code snippets, it's using async await. So it's using like asynchronous programming. I know the Python implementation is a little spicy. So have you like ran into any sort of like performance concurrency issues with that and thought about swapping over to like Golang, where they have a much better implementation of async programming?
Yes, that is very much something that we've thought of, and initially it was an issue back when we were running OBII on GCP. So we were on a quarter CPU, and it was breathing pretty heavy. We've since put it on our own stack, and I think has a full CPU core this time, and I think our utilization maybe hits like 2% some of the times. It's just GCP was like strangling it. So even with a server as active as ours, we barely see OB sweat. We are very much thinking about moving to Golang in terms of OB, better asynchronous workflow, a lot more performant, stuff like that. But yeah.
Have you thought about offering this to any other clubs? 'Cause it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, so I've actually talked to a couple other clubs about using it, and they're like, oh, we can just use Carl bot, and then we can also just add this other bot that does stuff. And unfortunately, it is a bot that's pretty customized to how we use everything. I've made everything, so all it is config files if you want to change any information about it. Core functionality itself is completely abstracted away. But I've talked to, I think it was the University of Tulsa about trying to integrate this back when I was at XFR, because that's when I was writing a lot of this, and they were interested. But other than that, so, there hasn't been a ton.
You also mentioned it was fully open source. However, correct me if I'm wrong, it's just hosted on the RA26 GitLab.
So it is, that URL is completely open.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go in, you can make contributions, you can do all that. Yeah, no, I made sure that it's completely public.
Yeah, that's good, because I was like, oh, it's not hosted on GitHub.
Yeah. I need to create a like shorter link for it, but as long as you go to that link, you don't have to be logged in and you can see everything. Any other questions? Cool. As a little foray, we have a new foe approaching. Whatever it is, if you guys read the e-board notes, it was in there, but OB3 is coming. So as Ashley said, Golang is a far more performant and better asynchronous workflow. We are going to be running OB3 in that. Overall, more features, better design. Everything's going to be a slash command that can be, because that's one of the things that was kind of before the time, or after the time of OB itself, OB2, I guess. But yeah, slash commands. There's also this thought of integrating, one of the big contributions that Ops wants to make is FreeIPA SSO integration to the entire club. So you're no longer like struggling with, hey, I have like several different passwords for the GitLab, and then I don't know, the stack and stuff like that. So integrating that so we can have discrete roles of Discord actually act as discrete roles of a single sign-on solution. And then lastly, built to last. I'm only going to be here for one more semester, so my goal is to pass it on. With any luck, Ops is going to be maintaining it. I'm still happy to help. But yeah, we're going to make one that can withstand the club. Yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you all for your time. I understand that was pretty long.